How do I move forward after my daughter hid her father's affair from me for 2 years? How do I, 49F, move forward after my daughter, 22F, hid her father's affair from me for 2 years? I was married to my ex-husband, Josh, 49M, for 20 years before our divorce became final just a few months ago. We share 2 children, our daughter, 22F, and our son, 17M. My world fell apart when I discovered Josh had been having an affair that lasted 2 years. But what cut just as deep, perhaps even deeper, was learning that my daughter had known about it the entire time. For 2 years, she covered for him, lied to protect him, and never said a word to me. When I confronted the truth, the pain was indescribable. I felt shattered not only by Josh's betrayal, but also by the choice my daughter made to keep a secret. I tried to understand. She was 17 at the time, still navigating her own challenges, and about to leave for college. But understanding didn't lessen the hurt. I never approached her angrily or demanded an explanation. Instead, I told her I knew the truth, that I understood how hard it must have been for her to be caught in the middle. I wanted to shield her from additional guilt. Yet, as time passed, I found myself pulling away. It wasn't intentional. I was simply trying to heal, and healing meant taking space from Josh, from my marriage, and unfortunately from my daughter. Over the next year and a half, our relationship became strained. We spoke less frequently, and I noticed a growing emotional distance between us. It wasn't what I wanted, but every conversation with her seemed to stir up old wounds. During this time, I started dating a wonderful man, 41M, who has a 10-year-old daughter. He brought a sense of lightness back into my life, something I hadn't felt in years. Recently, we planned a trip to Disney to celebrate his daughter's birthday. He covered all the costs, wanting to make it special for her. My son joined us, as did her 2 cousins. It was a joyful, family-style getaway. My boyfriend posted a photo of all of us at the park, grinning and carefree. A few weeks passed, and I realized my daughter hadn't called me once since the trip. At first, I brushed it off, assuming she was busy. But then, out of nowhere, she called me in tears. She was furious. Her voice was shaky as she accused me of shutting her out, of replacing her with my boyfriend and his daughter. "It's like I don't matter anymore," she cried. She told me I hadn't forgiven her, that I was punishing her for something that happened years ago. I was just a kid. I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't mean to hurt you. Her words hit me hard. She explained that at the time, she thought staying silent was the best choice. She didn't want to be the one to break our family apart. She thought she was protecting me, not realizing how much her silence would hurt in the long run. I tried to reassure her. "I love you," I said, "and I never wanted you to feel replaced." But she pushed back, insisting I needed to move on and let it go. The conversation ended with her sobbing and me sitting in stunned silence, unsure of what to do next. Not long after, Josh called me, enraged. He accused me of abandoning our daughter for a younger man and his family. The hypocrisy was staggering, considering he was the one who destroyed our family with his affair and now has a girlfriend who is 30. I couldn't believe the audacity. Meanwhile, my son, who lives with me full-time, found out about his sister's role in hiding the affair. He overheard his grandmother and aunt discussing it one day. He was devastated. They used to be so close, but since finding out, he's barely spoken to her. I never wanted him to know, and now it feels like another fracture in an already broken family. I've been in therapy, trying to make sense of it all. On one hand, I know my daughter was young and in a terrible position. She didn't have the tools to handle something so complex. But on the other hand, I can't help but feel like she chose her father over me. That wound is hard to ignore. When I look at her now, I see the girl who betrayed me, not maliciously, but still deeply. I feel conflicted because I love her so much, yet every interaction brings back that pain. I wonder if I'm failing her as a mother by not fully forgiving her, or if I'm simply protecting my own heart. Sometimes, I worry I've emotionally checked out. I don't want to push her away completely, but I also don't know how to let her back in. To clarify, my divorce didn't happen 3 years ago, as I mistakenly mentioned in an earlier draft. It was finalized just a few months ago. My daughter was 17 when she found out about the affair, not 19. At the time, she was going through a lot, including switching schools and repeating a grade due to personal challenges. I hope this clears up any confusion. Now, I'm stuck trying to figure out how to rebuild my relationship with her, or if that's even possible. How do I forgive her, and how do I move forward without losing myself in the process? First, I want to thank everyone who took the time to read and respond to my post. I was overwhelmed by the number of replies and the variety of perspectives. Many comments were difficult to read, but they were necessary, and I've spent a lot of time reflecting on them. One comment in particular stuck with me. Someone wrote about how fleeting life is and how little time we have with the people we love. That hit me hard. I realized I'd been so focused on my pain and anger that I hadn't thought about the long-term impact on my relationship with my daughter. If something were to happen tomorrow, would I be okay with leaving things as they are now? That thought stayed with me, and after a few days, I decided it was time to reach out to my daughter. I called her and told her I wanted us to talk, not to rehash the past or assign blame, but to figure out how we could move forward. She was hesitant, which I completely understand, but she eventually agreed. We had the conversation a few nights ago, and though it wasn't easy, I'm so grateful she was willing to open up. There were moments when things got tense, and it was painful to hear some of what she had to say. But for the first time in a long while, I felt like we were addressing the unspoken tension between us head-on. I asked her for complete honesty about what had happened. When I first learned about Josh's affair, he told me that she had always known and had even helped him cover it up. He claimed she had lied for him multiple times and was on his side. He went so far as to say she disliked me and didn't care about my feelings. Hearing that from him devastated me. I couldn't believe my own daughter would betray me like that, and the way I found out about the affair only made it worse. At first, she was reluctant to go into detail, but eventually, she opened up. She explained everything, including what had led to her choices. Around the time she discovered her father's affair, she was dealing with her own struggles. She had made a mistake at school that resulted in severe consequences. The school had a strict policy, and as a result, she was expelled and had to transfer schools, repeating a year. Her grades suffered, and she was struggling to get her life back on track. When this happened, I believed she needed to face the consequences to learn from her actions. I grounded her and took away her electronics, hoping it would help her reflect. I wanted her to grow from the experience and take responsibility for her choices. But Josh completely disagreed with my approach, arguing that she needed support, not punishment. This difference in parenting styles caused a lot of tension in our household. Looking back, I realized my frustration with her actions and my anger at Josh created an environment that was tense and uncomfortable for everyone. Therapy has helped me see that my own emotions played a role in this dynamic. I was angry and hurt, and that often came out in ways I regret now. So, when she found out about Josh's affair, she was still angry at me and resentful about everything that had happened. She admitted that part of her decision to keep quiet was out of a desire to hurt me, though she now sees how wrong that was. She also said she had tried to convince Josh to come clean, but he told her not to, saying it would only make things worse. Feeling stuck, she lied and kept lying, hoping it would all go away. Hearing this broke my heart. It didn't justify her actions, but it helped me understand where she was coming from. I hate that Josh put her in this position, using her to cover his lies. I told her that while I'm hurt by what she did, I love her and want to rebuild our relationship. We agreed to take things slowly. I suggested we try online therapy together, and though she was hesitant at first, she eventually agreed. She's already seeing a therapist on her own, so she wasn't sure about opening up in a joint session, but I think she realized how important this is to me. I also brought up her brother. They've never been particularly close, and since he learned about her role in hiding the affair, they've barely spoken. I've tried to encourage him to give her another chance, even when I was struggling with my own feelings toward her. But I also recognize that he has a right to his own emotions. I won't force him into anything he's not ready for, though I hope, in time, they can mend their relationship. Someone pointed out how society often holds women to impossible standards, and that comment has stuck with me. I don't hold her to any higher standard because she's my daughter or because she's a woman. She's human, and like all of us, she makes mistakes. I know I've shared a lot of negative feelings in these posts, but that's just one side of the story. At the end of the day, I'm a mother trying to do my best, even when I don't have all the answers. This journey hasn't been easy, but I'm hopeful. I don't know exactly where we'll end up, but I'm committed to taking this one step at a time. Thank you again for your advice and for giving me the push I needed to start this conversation. It's a long road, but I'm ready to walk it with her. Now on to the next story, story 2. My parents didn't attend my graduation. I think this was the final blow for our relationship. I'm writing this mostly to get it off my chest. It feels like something I need to say out loud. It's also my first time posting here, though I've been reading for a while. I'm 21F, and my relationship with my parents has become strained, to say the least. It's both heartbreaking and frustrating because I genuinely try to be a good daughter. I follow their rules about tattoos and piercings. I pay for all my bills, including rent. I don't smoke, I rarely drink, and I stay out of trouble. Yet, somehow, they still manage to treat me like I'm some kind of rebellious problem child. Maybe it's because some of their friends have kids who actually fit that description, and they feel left out of those conversations. I don't know, but what I do know is they seem to resent the way I dress, which is more on the alternative side. They've even sat me down to tell me I need to change my style, like it's some huge issue. Lately, things have been worse than ever. They've been on my case about getting a job, even though I already have one. Yes, it's minimum wage, and yes, I'm not getting many hours right now, but I'm still working. I'm also doing chores around the house, taking care of our pets, and actively searching for a better job. They don't see any of that. To them, it's like I'm just lying around doing nothing. The arguments have escalated to the point where they've kicked me out several times. I've ended up sleeping in my car or crashing at a friend's place, even in freezing temperatures. I have type 1 diabetes, and during those times, I've been left without access to my insulin. It's not just inconvenient, it's dangerous. To make things worse, they've taken my house key, so I have to knock every time I come home and wait for someone to let me in. But the final straw, the thing that broke me, happened recently. After one particularly bad argument, they started doing this thing they often do, talking about me loudly enough for me to hear. My dad said something that will probably haunt me forever. I'm not going to the graduation anymore. I don't want to go and pretend to be proud of that. Hearing those words shattered me. My mom later confronted me to confirm that they wouldn't be attending. They knew how much this year had taken out of me, how many losses I'd faced, and how close I'd come to losing my own life. Passing my course was nothing short of a miracle, yet they couldn't even bring themselves to be there for me. Oddly enough, part of me felt relieved. I'd only invited them because I didn't want another argument. They hadn't supported me through the year anyway. They'd made my life unbearable, threatening to sell my pet, cutting off the internet when I had assignments due, and criticizing every little thing I did. So I gave their tickets to someone who actually cared. My best friend. She'd been my rock through everything, and I wanted her there to celebrate with me. But life has its twists, and due to unforeseen circumstances, my friend couldn't make it. That left me with 2 unused tickets, but I couldn't bring myself to invite my parents. They didn't deserve to be there. They didn't deserve to hear the speeches about how family support plays a crucial role in graduate success. They hadn't earned the right to feel proud of me. Graduation day was bittersweet. Seeing everyone with their families, taking photos, clapping, and celebrating, while I stood there alone was painful. My classmates were wonderful, taking pictures with me and for me, but it wasn't the same. It should have been a moment of pure joy, but instead, I was holding back tears of grief. When I got home that night, I had to knock as usual. I stood in the freezing cold, waiting for someone to open the door. My mom didn't even ask how it went, or if she could see pictures. My dad didn't look at me or say a word. The idea of them attending my wedding someday feels impossible. Part of me wants to say the same words back to my dad when he inevitably asks to walk me down the aisle. I don't want you to have to pretend you're proud of me. For now, I'm planning to move out with a friend. We've found a place, and we're getting ready to apply for it. But I keep wondering if there's any point in trying to maintain a relationship with my parents. They treat me with such coldness, criticize everything I do, and then have the nerve to get angry because I don't talk to them much. They don't feel like my parents anymore. Cutting contact sounds tempting, but I'm scared of what it might do to other family relationships. My brother went through something similar when he was my age, but he eventually reconciled with my mom. I'm afraid he'd side with her if I cut ties, just like so many others in my family seem to. It's not fair. I work hard, pay my bills, and stay out of trouble. All I've ever wanted from them is love, but even that seems like too much to ask. If anyone has advice or insights, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time to read this.